Hi, this is VK4GXC. Been a long time since I've done a radio review or radio expose. This is something which came through about 2 months ago, to be frank, and was a receiver that I've been looking at for quite some time. Only not many were really available. This receiver is something made by a company called LTV, who basically took Watkins Johnson, or then CEI, receivers in the 60s and early 70s and repackaged them into a format that was suitable for airborne use, fundamentally. They were airborne electrical operated devices which allowed their operators there to monitor and listen in on various wave bands as such. This particular receiver has a very similar counterpart in the CEI lineup. I can't recall its number, something like a 765 or something. There are some slight differences, bandwidths, IF bandwidths, and I think the frequencies are subtly different. I think there's a changeover and it goes slightly higher on the CEI model. Not sure which one really came first, but this particular set was developed in the early 1960s. It used at the time a technology known as New Vistas, which were very small triodes, for want of a better word, just a small device which was a thermionic device, worked on the same principle as all the glass valves you've seen before, but were fundamentally a very small ceramic device, and they took a lot less power, had a lot less noise in some regards, certainly at the VHF end, and were easier to manage, again, at the VHF bands. So this particular receiver covers 30 megahertz to 260 megahertz. It's an FM AM. It says CW on there, but really it's just a BFO which you can put in. And noting that the bandwidth is only 10 kilohertz, you're not really going to get long distance CW. I'm just wondering whether it was more used for netting onto the center frequency than anything else. What this particular receiver lacks, I feel, is some kind of centimeter or a power, an S meter, for want of a better word, a power of the received signal. Anyway, the word was these units were put on U2s, and I've even heard sort of SR-71 Blackbirds, but who knows. They certainly would have been airborne. I would have thought more of the Orions and the other aircraft which would fly them down the corridors, doing some monitoring in the day. And as I say, this particular receiver was called a G for Golf, G175, and this is a Model F out of the whole series. There were some predecessors to this which were slightly chunkier, a little bit higher, and they required an external power supply, and this was a slightly later development where they built the power supply in, took up a lot less space, and off it would go. So the two bands are selected by the front panel switch, and they use what were called Malloy inductors. These are spiral inductors, and effectively you'd have two stages of RF amplification to give a bit of pre-selection, a main mixer tank circuit, and the third one, or the fourth one, would be a local oscillator running device. As you can see, this particular set's had a bit of a hard life. I actually gave it about as good a clean as I could. It utilizes the same plexiglass or blackened plexiglass display configuration as used in a lot of airborne gear. Fundamentally, it's all backlit and translucent through the center, and then the light basically escapes through the words. I'm not sure if I switch the light off here, you'll be able to see quite what's going on there. But all this strongly illuminated. There's a single bulb in the middle which is not that bright, it just seems to be the way it is, and of course there's all the basic manual controls are illuminated, so you can see at a glance what's going on, and that gives you, I think, a lot more, how can I put it, it doesn't damage the eyes in the dark area where you might be sitting there listening to various things going on. So it was intended, I think, as a monitoring receiver. There was a recording facility that had been hooked up to this, and something called the COR, which is a carrier-operated relay, would have been engaged when it detects a signal, and the tape would have run and record. There's a then delay of 3, 5, or 7 seconds, which is settable on the rear, and then it would halt or pause the tape until the next carrier would lift the carrier. It's not a squelch. This is the COR. There is a squelch facility on the receiver, but it's not. It's really, this is a COR, and I might give a demonstration out shortly. So just going through it, FM, traditional FM. Now bear in mind you've got 1040 and 300 kilohertz. So narrowband FM at the the 10 and the 40s, and then you've got the wideband FM in the 300 kilohertz IF bandwidth, which is good for current stereo. FM at 88 to 108 megahertz. To the right of it is the actual IF bandwidth we talked about, the 10, 40 and 30. There's a little bulb actually behind there which shines up through the numbers, which you could probably see if it wasn't so bright in here. Certainly in a darkened environment it would be legible. Down the bottom left, squelch sensitivity, traditional squelch, which we are familiar with today, which evolved out of something called silencers in the 50s, and was really sort of implemented. But really, after this, I think this set a few benchmarks. Of CEI in general set a few benchmarks as to the functionality of receivers at the time. There's a little BFO here, which it does work. You can hear it whistling around in the background, but it's not really anything to shout about. It really just is some methodology of beating with the carrier. I'm not quite sure what the benefit of that really was. I've got the main two tuners. The tuner on the left, as I say, goes 30 to 90 megahertz. It's one continuous circle on this particular band. So there's a dial blind, as it were. And if I engage it there we go. So, and it illuminates as you switch the band, of course. And it's just a singular movement of numbers around an external dial, whereas the one on the right is actually a spiral of frequencies, basically indicated at every megahertz, and the actual calibration is reasonably good for its age, and considering it's purely a free-running oscillator, which is utilizing a 6CW4 in this particular setup radio here. So you can tune it around. I won't just disturb there because it was actually on tune at the moment. Going further to the right, there's purely just an audio level which is turned down, and then we've got the RF gain. Traditionally there is an AM manual RF gain here, so you can fiddle around with that. I guess on a CW you could do the same thing. Above here is the COR threshold setting, which will engage the recording system when it's advanced round to the threshold levels, and then it would record and then switch off after 3 seconds. I'll see if we can get some sort of action going there. So I'll just turn it up and see if we've got anything on here at the moment. The squelch is on, so you can hear that's the hiss from the squelch. Now hopefully I haven't knocked the frequency. This is on one of the Brisbane aeronautical frequencies, and we were able to hear some of the movements here this afternoon. It's now not going to play for us. Just see if there's anything else going on. Just turn that down a bit. There is an ATIS a little bit further up. Let's see here. Departures. And in parallel departures in progress. Wind varying between. So there's the local ATIS, and this is only hooked up to a dipole at only about 3 meters in the back garden through some 30-40 feet of coax. There is no low noise amplifier, nothing. It's feeding straight into the receiver, and I'm stunned by the sensitivity. I have run it through checks. It's down below 1 microvolt for 10 dB. The spec was of that order. It was 1 to 2 microvolts sensitivity. Generally, I wouldn't be able to hear this even on some of the later sets. It's a very sensitive receiver, and I have double-checked the alignment, and it does seem to be good. Of course, you can go to a 10 kilohertz bandwidth now, because we've gone to an even narrower part of the band. We'll just have to gently bring it in there.
Maximum crosswind 18 knots. Maximum tailwind 5 knots. Visibility greater than 1
so
0 kilometers.
bear in mind, this is a free running oscillator. This is not synthesizer. This is a free running oscillator. The local oscillator is 21.4 megs offset to this, so it's running somewhere around about 100 megs at the moment, and it's stable. I can leave that on for probably 30 minutes before I need to come back and titivate it a bit. As it warms up, it gets more and more stable, so I can't basically guarantee that it's going to be on any longer. But generally, as it warms up, it does seem to stabilize and become very good. So there's. I'll go back to the slightly wider bandwidth because it's easier to capture the signals. So we'll find someone else. So there's both a little handle here you can use to quickly move around, but really to zoom in, you really got to just be on the main body of the tuning knob. Oh, where am I? Can't see where I am now. Right, let's go down a bit, see if there's anything. Okay, let's go back up.
Heading 020, hold the reduced speed to loss. Right, heading 020, copy reduced speed to 568.
So we can put, there's some interference there, so it may not squelch off very well. We'll have a listen, see if anything else comes on. You may have saw the COR came on there. I wonder if it's going to play for us. Maybe not. I don't want to waste too much time just hanging around on. Seems we've picked a bit of a quiet time. Get a lot of computer noise.
Approach.
There's normally a...
Minus 126, reduced to 180 knots.
180 knots, we'll go to...
So just put that off. Look, I'll engage the CO1, you'll see what happens here. I've just arbitrarily set the threshold a bit higher. This is one of the, excuse me, one of the approach frequencies. And is it going to play for us?
Okay. 186,
so you can see the COR comes on. So that then record on the tape. It will hold for about 3 seconds. If I said it right.
Qantas 622, descend by star to 4000, cleared ILS approach, runway 19 left.
Star 4000, cleared the ILS, runway 19 left, approach Qantas 622.
And it's going to hang forever.
Qantas 184, contact tower 120.5.
105, Qantas 184.
There is a manual disable here which you hold in. No, it's not going to play for us. There's something not quite working for us this afternoon. That was basically cutting in and out, as you see here, as was the squelch, but it's not actually a works on the same principle, but it's not actually for squelch purposes. It's to enable a pair of contact relays on the back to be engaged, and then cut out a few seconds after it's.
Contact tower 120.5.
Just see if it cuts out now, because I've maybe advanced it too far before. No? Yes, there you go. So there is a delay switch on the back which you preset, and it's on the back of the actual overall unit. I'll just give one last little look down band and just show you some of the other things it can pick up. Actually, just one quick thing while we're up in this end of the band. I will see if we can hear anything on 2 meters. But it's a very quiet area. We might get lucky. Might not. Even 2 meters, but there is a relay up here. There. 3, 2, and here we are on the VHF end. This is a relay, excuse me, a VHF relay of a VLB's channel. It's at 152 megahertz. Currently it's on FM, and it's at 40 kilohertz. So just to give an idea where 10 might be a bit harsh for it. Yeah, so that's 10 kilohertz. It's fair, but it's just I'm just absolutely smashed by how stable these oscillators are in this unit. You know, this is now free running. We've set it with a 10 kilohertz bandwidth, and we're probably within a few hundred hertz of where we need to be. So it's and it's staying there. So it's very, very neat indeed. One thing I was going to mention, you're probably wondering what these gaudy blue, red, yellow, sorry, white. There used to be another pointer on this one, a white pointer, as it was sold. But I have this and another one which I've got in the hangar, and they've both been snapped off. And I can only imagine that there was confusion in the dark between switching the bandwidth and I've done it myself, to be honest, and that's with the knob removed. So the intent was that in a low visibility, the physical shape and the difference in colours would stand out and allow you to switch the correct or adjust the correct pod or switch to what you need to do. So it gave you that extra little bit of mental acuity to make sure you're not switching or pushing the wrong switch. But I think I will. I do have some of these, so I think I will clean this up and pop the original white, piece back in there. So I think I'll knock some in there. Okay, so I'll hold it there a minute and just go down now to the low band. And what I mean by that is go down to 88 megahertz to the FM radio band, and just give you an idea of what we're hearing down here. So 3, so like some. We'll just turn it up because it's a bit quieter on this band. It's one of the local classical stations. It's pretty good. Don't know if it's coming through on the see if there's anything. The discriminators in this are very linear. They're quite good. And again, we'll move up to another classical station. It's almost fully quietening. And this is the antenna not really cut for this band. It's cut for 130, 140 megs. So it's remarkably good. What I'll do now is I'll just take the camera off its podium here, and I'll give you a quick look inside, because the cover's off for once at a time, and normally I have the radios and all the covers are on, and I'll explain some of the layouts in there. So I'll just put you on standby. Okay, so here we are, looking at the dead centre. I'll just turn that down a little bit because it might be a bit overpowering. Now, the whole unit is extremely well laid out. We have, from the front panel, the main tuners, going through some anti-backlash gears, beautifully made and stress relieved, through to these Mallory. Underneath this cover there is a Mallory spiral induct, and the same here. And these are really the two tuning heads, what they called the tuning heads at the time. This one you can see a bit clearer. What we have here are the new Vistas, so I'll see if I can get down close in there. It may or may not focus. There we go. So those are the new Vistas. These are little metal cans. They're really small wee valves, and this is a new Vista with a top cap. This is the mixer, and here we've got first and second stage. So this is the local oscillator, first, second stage preamps, and the mixer. And on the UHF side, they've got a really neat little device down in here. This is an even smaller version of an axial pentode, an axial triode, and it's a VUHF device, or should I say it's a tube which you run at VOHF, and there's an identical one underneath here. They just give this one a bit of a screening. I don't know why they didn't screen both, but they're both open. And a word of the wise here, when I purchased these receivers, they had no tubes in them whatsoever, and there's a mass of these grid cap devices, and they're not expensive, but these guys are tricky to find. Some of these other, axial triodes. However, the surprise to me was I gave the unit a clean, I fitted the valves, repaired bits and pieces that I could see needed doing, and switched it on. And other than a little bit of deoxit and cleaning the bits up and give a little light oil on the bearings, it just worked. And I was staggered. To be honest, I expected to have to pull all these strips out and go through them. Slowly brought up the capacitors on a variac, and there's a little bit of a hybrid work here. There's some transistorized circuit. This is to do with the audio amplifiers and the COR and squelch circuitry. The drawback for someone like myself is it's only 115 volt input, which means that I have to run it off a local transformer here most of the time. There is a local oscillator pickoff. In fact, this is the local oscillator pickoff here and here. Let's see, there's the two local oscillator devices, and then there's a pickoff which goes to the back of the set. So you can put a frequency counter on these units and get a frequency readout. Now, the manual says that you have a couple of options for IF bandwidths. In this particular set, it's 1040 or 300, or 1075 and 300. And they are field changeable. The center IF bandwidth is just decided here in this little coupling circuit, and the way they change them is by removing a top coupling and fitting a different one, and then you change the knob. There's another knob there. If that's the way that the white bar I was talking about before, I'll probably pinch off one of these knobs and put it onto the other. The 40 kilohertz is far better for today, I think, rather than 75. But the layout's beautiful. It's all got sort of gold flashing, and it's a nice looking set. The underside is very similarly laid out. It's got beautiful little positronic connectors everywhere. You can remove all these sub-assemblies and just unplug them. It's like 4 or 5 screws, unplug the positronic, just lift the whole thing out. So if I get bored one day, maybe I'll do that and just give them a really good clean. But they are pretty nice. They are pretty nice. So I just zoom back here. Unfortunately, the light's not playing for me, but there's the basic unit. Well, I hope that's given a bit of an overview to the C-sort of receivers. There are CEI equivalents. There's a 765 seems to ring a bell that do this, and there's also a UHF 250 to 500 and 500 to a gig, and I do have a very ratty one of those, which I'm contemplating getting operational and matching it with this unit. So I'll have the 30 to 1 gigahertz in 2 units, and I'll have them stacked. And yes, it's a long-term project, this, but hopefully I can get it all working nicely together with the 2 bands. And if I can find a digital readout, one of the old WJ digital readouts, I'll probably put that above them both so I can actually get a good frequency readout from them. Well, hopefully that's given everyone a bit of an overview on these receivers. Very impressed, very nice layout. Some drawbacks with no meters, and for me 115 volts is always a pain, but basically a lovely job. I mean, considering this was back in the 1960s, heck, even in the 1970s, this was outstripping most of the receivers I'd seen at that time. So it's a very impressive set. Thank you for watching.